Welcome back to the DotNetwork. On this episode of the DotNetwork, we talk about the Rockies, why they are currently set up for failure. Now, here's your host, Alex Dotson.
What's up, guys? Alex Dotson here. Welcome you back into the DotNetwork. So, I had a couple things on my mind, so I figured I share with you a little bit today. Just a quick hitter. Kind of talking about a little bit of my frustrations right now with a certain team. And when I say certain team, I'm not talking about Broncos and Drew Lock Mania right now, the Nuggets or Avs. No, I'm talking about our good old friends, Mr. Colorado Rockies. So, as many of you know, Rockies coming off a disappointing season after two straight wildcard appearances. They proceeded to miss the playoffs with struggles basically across the board. Seeing potential ace Kyle Freeland kind of regress a little bit back and will regress quite a bit, even going as far as being demoted back to the minors to work on his throwing motion, work on his getting back up into the Kyle Freeland that we saw the season before. Some other pitching staff struggles. Definitely some relief pitcher struggles with higher priced free agents basically not panning out, getting shelled, and Rockies having really very few to little people that could be relied on within the bullpen, as well as a struggling offense. And when one hears about these kind of struggles that a team has, normally any team would evaluate themselves and would say, all right, so we came off this season, we had quite a bit of struggles coming from both the young people on the roster, the younger players on the roster, and the older players as well, those that are receiving the money, that are getting paid large amounts of money in order to perform well in these positions. And any normal team would make evaluations about certain teams, would attempt to, or would make evaluations about themselves, would begin to evaluate each of their players, see who has a chance of coming back from these struggles, who hasn't really performed well to begin with, and learning to kind of cut their losses a little bit, or to figure out to cut their losses on some players, maybe retain the player for another year, see if he figures it out, and then proceed to make a change, sign people, whether that be signing people, trading for people, trading away contracts, just figuring out different ways to modify their roster in order to have more success the season to come. Because this is a talented Rockies team. This team has a lot of talent on it. They have the premier third baseman in the league in Nolan Arenado, the best. Not just personal opinion, but from what I've seen, he is the best third baseman, all-around third baseman in baseball. You have quite possibly one of the best shortstops in the game as well in Trevor Story. You have a very coming to age outfield. Charlie Blackmon is established as one of the best hitters in baseball as well. While his defense has kind of gone downhill a little bit, he's still one of the best hitting outfielders in baseball. You have David Dahl, you have Ramiel Tapia, you've got Sam Hilliard, you've got other guys that are emerging in the outfield that have come out to make a difference, and you have Ryan McMahon, whether he plays second base or first base, who's kind of emerged as well. We'll see what he does this season, because I feel like he could also be a potential threat to really stand back out and help the Rockies not miss DJ LeMahieu so much. And they have a lot of good pieces. I mean, even their rotation. Kyle Freeland had a bad year, but he's still a quality pitcher. He's shown us that. John Gray is quietly forming into the ace that we know and that we wanted him to be. And German Marquez is also one of the better pitchers on the team and one of the better pitchers in baseball, I would say. He's really come out as well. And there is capable guys throughout the roster that has the making and initial foundations for a playoff team. And when a GM would see this, their immediate reaction would be like, okay, we need to fortify this team, stabilize it, help it to figure out what do we need to have this team grow and have them change and have them perform so that players will want to stay, so that when the time comes to offer contracts to Nolan Arenado or to Trevor Story or Charlie Blackmon or whoever the situation may come, that the player wants to stay. They want to continue to compete. And the Rockies were able to do that a couple years back in when they made the postseason in consecutive years in 2017 and 2018. And they were rewarded for it because Nolan Arenado ended up re-signing his contract. Same thing with Charlie Blackmon. And even players like Trevor Story want to stay. But this year, there was a problem. There was an issue. People underperformed. And the team finished with more than 90 losses. And so, as a normal team, or as a normal front office would go about this, they'd say, all right, what can we do so that we can return to where we were before in the playoffs, in contention, and go back to competing for whether it be an NL West crown or whether it be a championship. Well, I don't think the Rockies are quite championship level. They have the right foundation that they could get there. But here's the problem. Here's the problem that I'm seeing with the Rockies foundation, with the Rockies front office. They are set up to fail. They, as of right now, are set up to fail. They are doing the exact same thing that they did to this Rockies team in 2007 and 2009. There are very many parallels that are close to what this team has done and is now currently doing. They have established stars. They had back then Troy Tulowitzki and later Carlos Gonzalez and other good foundational pieces. They have it now. They made moves to try and impact their team. They made the playoffs. They did well. One year they went to the World Series. Got swept by Boston, but they made it. And then the team just kind of stopped. They didn't go anywhere with it. And it came to head that all of a sudden they lost that playoff momentum that they had going, and these players that they had weren't able to carry the team by themselves. They weren't able to take lesser talent and take them to above that level that they were before, because you can't. It's a team effort. It's not just a single player. Just because you have the best third baseman in the game doesn't mean you're going to win games. It means you have a fantastic first piece. And the Rockies have more than that. They have so many opportunities. But what we've seen so far, especially at the beginning of this free agency period, is that the Rockies are set up to fail. They are set up to fail. They have, as of right now, are committed. They General Manager Jeff Bridich came out and stated to Rockies Twitter, the Rockies fan base, saying, "Listen, guys, we're not going to do that much because we don't have a ton of money left," which it's a fair evaluation, but I feel is not the correct maneuver to say. That's basically telling your team you're giving up on them, saying, "You know what? You guys need to figure your own stuff out, so we're not going to help you out at all. So good luck," which isn't going to work. As of right now, the Rockies have a more or less have around committed in money right now to the entirety of the team, about $148.3 million committed to all that consists of the Rockies roster. Around 40% of that, $58.5 million of that chunk of money that they're being spent to, or they're currently using, is to these select group of players: Wade Davis, Ian Desmond, Jake McGee, Brian Shaw, Daniel Murphy. 5 guys that all went through whether slight to major struggles and have not produced anywhere close to the amount of money that they're currently making. 40% of that money is going to those guys. So as a team, as a fan base, you see that and you're frustrated. You want the team to do something about that. Now, I'm not asking that the Rockies trade each and every single one of those guys away and expect nothing in return, because that's just not fair to them, because then you're taking away teams or people that could rebound. Wade Davis has been one of the best closers in baseball for a while. This last year he struggled mightily. I still think he could figure it out. So maybe it's worth it to keep him on roster. Or people like Jake McGee or Daniel Murphy. Jake McGee is another really good relief pitcher that struggled mightily, but he had it somewhat figured out towards the end of the year and could still have it figured out this season. It could be a valuable piece. Daniel Murphy's a good hitter, and it might be worth it to have it at least as a veteran bat on the team. But there are also many players on this team, like Ian Desmond, who's been with this team for a while, Jake McGee, who's been in this team for a while. I mean, this is Wade Davis' third year on the team. Jake McGee is in the second or third year of his contract at this point. Daniel Murphy is in the second year of his contract. These guys are all making this kind of money, yet have not performed the way that the Rockies have hoped. And Jeff Bryant has come out and told the Rockies fan base, basically saying that we want these guys to turn it around. Well, if these guys haven't turned it around in the several seasons they have contracts, why is it worth it to hold on to them? Why is it worth it to continue to hope and pray that they get the money, there's money worth out of it, when in reality it's not coming to fruition? And that comes purely from the GM. At this point, it's a measure of pride. He was the head or the leader behind the Rockies signing each and every single one of these guys. Now, these guys is from the former regime. This is from this current GM overview. And because these guys are struggling and because they have large contracts, the team doesn't want to give up on them because they feel like they have a sense of loyalty. Now, that's all fine and dandy, but when you're wanting to compete and you're wanting to win championships and not just hope and pray you make the playoffs, you got to change something around. This cycle can't continue. You look at other teams out there making moves right now. I mean, you see Steven Strasburg just signed recently, or Zach Wheeler, or Cole Hamels, or Dylan Bundy being traded to the Angels, or even lesser contract guys. If you're not looking to spend that much money and you don't want to drop a bunch of money to try and hope these guys work out as well. I mean, guys that the Rockies have their eyes on for a long time. Michael Pineda, Kevin Gassman, and other these guys are all signing for like 1-year deals that aren't worth a ton of money, and yet they're sitting there on their hands and just expecting their team to get better from the inside, which doesn't work and won't work. So that's why, unless the Rockies change something, unless they figure out what they want to be, they're set up to fail. They are set up to fail again, and we're going to see the team waste the current talent of Nolan Arenado and Trevor Story and Charlie Blackmon and Ryan McMahon. And these guys are going to sit here and wonder why the team isn't trying to help them on the offensive side, while their ownership is currently content with hoping and praying that the team figures it out. Well, I, for one, am a proponent to saying it's time to stop being so loyal to some of these guys and to make the changes necessary to bring your team glory. The Rockies are one of the few teams left in baseball right now that has not won a World Series. They've appeared in one World Series and were swept promptly by the Boston Red Sox. And that was a fluke year for them. That was the year that they won the amazing amount of games, and it will always hold a special place in my heart. But it's time for the Rockies to figure out who they are. And if it comes to the point that it goes down to management and Jeff Bryant can't do it, then we need to find somebody that will. But please, Rockies, figure yourselves out. Do something. Don't just sit content. Figure out who you want to be and do it. Don't let contracts get in the way of that. So that was the kind of the short little bit I had. Hoping that I can get more of these thoughts out here as time goes along and post these more onto the .network. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Continue to listen to my other podcast, and well, I'll see you next time on the .network.
And that is all the time that we have, and we hope we get to catch you next time on the .network.